This is task 2H. Restaurants want to see a graph that shows the number of covers for each year for a restaurant selected from a drop-down list. It's going to work like this. Here's the restaurant, we select from a drop-down list and it will show the number of covers. Now, this is based on this data here, which when we select the restaurant, that data here changes. So watch, when I change this to La Grille, this data here changes, and that's based on looking up the data from the year. Now it's based on the covers. Another question might ask you to do it for a different type of data, but in this case it's just based on the covers, and that's what we're doing the graph for. So let's go through and have a look at the things that we've got to do. Put in a title, x-axis, that's all straightforward. The difficult bit is making sure that when La Grille is selected, only the data for La Grille is shown. So what we're going to do is have a look at that. We're going to create a new worksheet. We don't have to, but it makes sense to create a new worksheet, and I'm going to call this graph. I'm going to have an instruction at the top, so I'm going to put something along the lines of select restaurant, and then of course we need to have a drop down box, so let's have a validation rule. So we'll maximize this for a moment so we've got a bit more space. Data, validation, and what we're going to be doing is choosing a list, and we're going to be choosing the list of restaurants. So if I go to covers, I could name this, but I'm not going to, just get it done, and that will give us the list of restaurants that we can select from. Let's see, there we go, Caverna La Grille. Now we need the years that need to go down the list, so let's put those in. So we'll put a title of year. Might as well put our other title here of covers, which is going to be the covers for each of those years. And rather than typing in the years, let's pick them up from here, because then if this data does change at any point, then of course it means the data here will also change. So all the way down to 2016. So there we go, we've got that. Now what we need to do is look up the restaurant, and we need to look it up in this table, and when we found it we need to find the year that it's going to that's appropriate, so the row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this table, because this is where we're going to look up the name of the restaurant. So I'm going to name this covers table. I'm also going to name this selected restaurant, because that is the data that we will look up. Now we're going to use a HLOOKUP. So we'll go for a HLOOKUP here. And what's the lookup value that we're going to use? The lookup value is the selected restaurant. What's the table array? Well, the table array was the covers table. So we'll put that in. So we're looking up the restaurant that's been selected in here. Now we need to decide which row number we're going to go for. Well, this is row 1, this is row 2, this is row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8. So if we have a look at it, if I want 2016, I want row 8. So I have to subtract 2008 from the year, okay, that we are looking up. So what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to say that we're going to select the year, which is in the same row. So I've just put B5. I could name this, but we won't. But I need to subtract 2008 from it. Now what that will do is this now for 2010, we'll look it up in row 2. So there we go, row 1, row 2 is 2010. We want range lookup to be false because we want an exact match. Now if we look, 740, let's check. La Grille row 2, 2010, 740. Let's change this, Caverna. And let's copy this down as well, and we can check for 2014. So 2014 minus 2008 gives us row 6. Okay, so Caverna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 1139. There we go, 1139. So what we've done here is we've now been able to select any restaurant, and it will find the covers for the year appropriate to that restaurant. Now what we've got to do is create the graph, and that's the easy bit. And all we need to do, highlight data, we'll go to insert a graph, and we'll just go for a straightforward column chart. Now at the moment it's putting in 2 sets of data, because we've got both the year and the covers in there. So what we're going to do is go for recommended chart instead, and now can you see it just shows the 1 set of data, right? So a column graph there, and it just shows 1 set of data, and we'll click on OK. Now let's just pull this across a bit over here, and we're going to have a look at the question again. The graph should include a title of the name of the restaurant from the drop down list. So what we're going to do is select where it says covers at the moment as that title, and I'm just going to use backspace delete, and we need to leave the cursor flashing in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to select that the title will be equal to this cell here. Now we can't use named cells. We have to make reference directly to the worksheet name, because the chart, although it looks like it's part of a worksheet, it's not. It's a separate object in itself. And we need to use the absolute cell reference, so it's going to be $C$2, and we press enter. Now that hasn't worked, and it's a bit of hit and miss sometimes when we're using this. So I've just gone through undo, go back to my chart title. I'm going to do it again here. Now look, it's kept that selected, so I'm pretty confident it's going to work this time. So graph for the worksheet name, $C$2 for the absolute reference. There we go. Now let's just check that changes. It does, and the data changes as well, because of course what's happening is all of this data under here is changing, and so it changes the graph for us. So that's the title. You'll be showing annotated evidence of how that was done later. There isn't a video tutorial for that, you just simply need to look at the similar but different tasks. Now we're also asked for the x-axis to be labelled with the years. We've got the years there, but let's explain what we mean by those. So I'm just going to double click on the graph, and we can then add a chart element, axis title, horizontal, and this will be the year, or we could say years. And we'll also add the vertical one, so we've got, should be labelled with years, y-axis should be labelled with the number of covers. So let's put that. Okay, so I can put covers or number of covers, either will do, and that's the graph finished. So what have we got to do? We've got to print the graph when La Grille is selected. So let's just move our graph out the way a little bit, change that to La Grille. There we go. And what I'm going to do is print it. Now we're not printing the worksheet. This is what happens if you print the worksheet. It includes that bit there. I suppose it doesn't really matter, but it does ask for the graph to be printed. So I'm going to select the graph, and then when we go to print it, you can see it's just printing the graph on its own. Then in part 2, again, there's not a video tutorial for part 2 because it's just showing annotated evidence, but it's about how the data for the graph was automatically selected. So it's about choosing the name of the restaurant, and it's about how this data here, these functions, the HLOOKUP, pulls the data in automatically when La Grille is selected. So I'm going to leave that there. That's a good interface. We can see that we can select the restaurant, and the graph comes up, and that is task 2 completed. If you've done task 2 part 2 first, you can now go back and do task 2 part 1 because they are independent of each other. Well done if you've got this far.